Are you a people pleaser? Well, I am too. So this is to please you. No, it's fucking not. So my name's Mark. I'm generally regarded as one of the biggest assholes in personal growth. However, that means a lot of people come to me who have people pleasing as a problem. And over the years, I've got a bunch of solutions for them. So that's what this video is going to be about. A bunch of solutions to people pleasing. And no, it's not for you, it's for me. We've got a course coming up, so it's a blatant promo as ever. However, it will be useful. All right, let me sit back on the couch. People pleasing, what have we got coming up? What is it? What are the signs you might be a people pleaser? What are some solutions, of course, to it? Different perspectives on it. Yeah, few points of view on people pleasing, what to do about it, from surveying everything that's out there, talking to many students over the years. I do seem to attract students who are massive people pleasers, so I talked to some of them as well and made some notes just for you. All right, what is it? Putting others' needs ahead of your own. Yeah, putting what you think or you perceive as other people's needs ahead of your own. So it's not even actually really pleasing. It's like perception of person pleasing. It's fear-based. I think that's critical to say. Yeah, it's fear-based. We can't really talk about people pleasing without talking about fear. It shows up in lots of different ways. It could be little things like, I don't know, going to the restaurant your partner wants to go to rather than one you want to go to because you think that's what they would like. Staying late with friends out for drinks when you actually want to go to sleep. Ultimately, what it comes down to is putting other people's needs ahead of your own, ignoring your own needs, and trying to essentially manipulate people through trying to please them. Trying is an important word. Okay, roots. First of all, if you suffer from this, let me cut you some slack. It's got a couple of main roots. So one is just evolutionary wise, right? Like, we are social animals. To us, being part of the tribe was survival. Being kicked out of the cave meant death. This is it's a big deal. So essentially, as social animals, we're trying to be a positive thing for people. We don't want to annoy people. We want people to like us. In that way, actually, people pleasing, we could say, is a skill. So it's actually excessive or inappropriate people pleasing. There's a problem. If you don't people please at all, then you're a psychopath, right? So it's pretty essential. Evolutionary wise, as social animals, we needed to please the people around us. We need to get on well with people around us. There needs to be a social harmony. I mean, that's our superpower as an animal. So there's a deep evolutionary root to this, whereby when we displease people, part of us is going, this is a survival issue. This is life and death, So we do have that evolutionary heritage. The other thing I'd say is this particular family. So for some people, there's something called parent pleasing, is something I heard the other day. The idea that you only get love if you please mum and dad. I didn't have this personally, but I know plenty of people who did. For some, this is actually even really is a matter of safety. You're like, hey, dad or mum, whoever could be violent. And if I don't please them, then I'm in trouble. So essentially, it's a safety strategy. I think that's quite a compassionate way of looking at what people pleasing is this is a safety strategy, a way to stay safe. I'll talk more about that and the trauma and performance response and things like that later. I think there's a few different types of it. We have this term people pleasing. It's this great fucking PR job, isn't it? It's like, I'm not manipulating people with fakeness. I'm a people pleaser. What a great fucking PR job that is. Yeah. So what are you actually doing there? It could be conflict avoidant. So for some people, that's the key, looking at conflict. For some people, it's a way to attain status. It's a way, to be, see their appearance is the key thing. Yeah, to appear to be keeping everybody else happy. For a lot of people, though, I think it is just this love. It's looking for love, looking for safety. If I make people happy, they will give me love. That's the sort of internal childlike logic. And often with so much personal growth stuff, the basic algorithm I'm running with clients is it made sense to you then in the past. It no longer makes sense now. There's a childlike logic which was You know, back then you were doing the best you could to understand the world, to make the world predictable, safe, controllable. Now it's outdated. Now it's inappropriate. You're running something, you know, from evolution or family past, which is not really appropriate in the modern context. Yeah. Okay, I think there may be a few different types. So I think it is worth examining, you know, if everything or if what people say about this term people pleasing applies to you, because I think there's types. Signs you might have it. This is interesting. So I was thinking, what would be like the checklist for a people pleaser? What are the things I hear again and again and again with coaches with this, all around the world, So actually some cultures more than others, that might be worth saying, tend to see it in the pro-social cultures, the communitarian cultures, Scandinavia, the Netherlands, Japan, oh my God, a lot of the Asian countries. Yeah, there is this, it's enculturated very much in some places, and often it does have a gender element. I see more women with this than men. I don't have a particular feminist narrative about that, but you could make one, I'm sure. It's just what I see. Okay, signs you might be a people pleaser. Top signs you're a people pleaser. With Mark Walsh, people unpleaser. Exhaustion. Just seeing people exhausted. People that are constantly trying to meet others' needs. And because it's a neurotic pattern, there's no end to it. So you keep going. There's no enough. It's like an addiction. Kind of see it like very much like an addiction. So exhaustion is one, you're not looking after your own needs. And similarly, dissatisfaction. So people pleasers tend to have a sort of, it might be a nagging, whispering or a screaming dissatisfaction that their life could be different. That, you know, the worst kind of sign for this is that you're at the end of your life and you die going, oh my God, I just lived someone else's life. You know? So the wake up is sometimes in middle age where someone, you know, gets divorced, buys a Ferrari and then goes, hang on a minute, I didn't want to be a doctor. My dad wanted me to be a doctor. I see this amongst, say, for certain cultural groups, like, I don't know, British Asians is a classic one. You know, you've got to become a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. Following your father's footsteps, you know, whatever it is. So dissatisfaction with life. And the other big one is actually anger and resentment. So what you tend to see with people pleasers is they do things, but often the energy says like, they don't want to really do it because they're not really saying yes. It's like they're saying yes to something, but they're complying, not really fully consenting from the heart. And that compliance often leads to a sort of foot dragging during it, a resentment. Like it lead to a kind of like bitchiness you'll see amongst people pleasers, or sometimes just spiraling out into all out aggression. You know, what's pushed down pops out in a big way, explodes out. Another one is inauthenticity. Sponsored by Polish mineral, unpronounceable water. Yeah, so the inauthenticity of not living your own life, but just kind of being a bit fake, or it could be a bit shallow, often with it, because of the fear of upsetting people, you can't be real. You can't be authentic. You can't be yourself, right? So relationships tend not to be very deep, tends to be a shallowness or superficiality, or a kind of fakeness of like, make nice, everything's fine. Yeah, and underneath it, not so much. So that's another sign. Yeah, being a loser. There you go. Bit harsh, this one. So to be successful, you need to upset people. Now, it's not to say just by upsetting people to be successful. You won't. You also need to have collaborations and relationships and, you know, customers and blah, blah. However, in almost every field, it necessitates being unpopular to be innovative, to be pushing frontiers, to be good. You know, people will just resent you. So yeah, for me, I think people pleasers, I rarely see people pleasers go very far. They might do sort of quite well, but to stand up in a position where you'll be criticized is leadership. So it's impossible for them to be leaders in any field. The other one I'd say is you tend to get abusive partners. So that could be intimate partners who recognize you're a people pleaser on, you know, so it fits with their pattern, right? It could be an abusive boss. It could be you're drawn to a certain kind of person. It's not always bad, you know, maybe it's like you're drawn to a little bit of what could hurt you or a little bit of what you need. You know, it might be romantic partners who tend to be very assertive. You know, I've had this, I think, I've had many romantic partners who were a little bit like this because I think I was abusive to them. But they were certainly drawn to me as someone that had a bit of something they needed, that kind of assertive quality. And often you get this kind of, in romantic situation, you get this relationship, they love it, but simultaneously are triggered by it. Yeah. So, yeah, they're the signs. And ultimately, like being exhausted, being authentic, living someone else's life, there's a heavy cost to be paid here. So, I hope that's sort of signs of it, but also motivation, right? Like if you're looking at this going, maybe I'm kind of am people pleaser, but is it that big a deal? Because it's going to be quite a lot of work to change. Do you want your kids to inherit this? That's always a good question. Would you want this for a good friend? And I look at this list and I go, fuck that. Yeah. Now, everyone is on a scale, right? Because unless you're a psychopath, there's an evolutionary need to have a bit of this. And even someone like myself is what's called very low trait agreeableness. So agreeableness is one of what's called the big 5 scientifically validated personality trait measures. I score very low, like bottom 1% on agreeableness. So I'm very unlikely to have people pleasing. However, I still notice the tendency of going, you know what, my mates want to go out for a drink and, I probably shouldn't, but I kind of want them to be happy. Or I notice it in small ways. Like I'm in a coffee shop and the woman's kind of saying, come on, what do you want? And I can see she's in a hurry and I kind of want a few complicated drinks and maybe I just simplify it a bit. Now, is that consideration? Yeah, if it's coming from love, if it's coming from the heart. But often it's not. It's often just coming from, I want this random person to like me. Yeah, like, here's a really interesting question for any people pleaser. What is your fucking fantasy? What's your fantasy here? Your fantasy is that everyone in the world loves you. Your fantasy is that some people pleasers I think are just trying to get back. It's just that they want reciprocity, right? That people then realize psychically everything you want, even though you don't tell them. Like, what is your fantasy? What is your end game? What's your fantasy here? And I think once we kind of ask that question, we can sort of see that it's ridiculous. Again, a bit of sympathy, a bit of compassion for ourselves. Don't beat yourself. I'm going to give you some pretty harsh reframes here. And it's important that we come back to like, yes, and it's evolutionary. Yes, and it's, parent pleasing. Yes, and it's the little kid in me doing the best they can. It's important we have self-compassion and, it's an attempt to be safe generally, right? That's big. And we also need to cut away some of this PR job of, I'm people pleasing, I'm so nice. You're not nice, you're self-abusive. There's my first reframe. You're not nice. There's nothing nice about being self-abusive. Like, so I'm such a people pleaser, people smile and laugh, and I'm like, if you were cutting yourself or taking heroin or, punching yourself in the face every day, you wouldn't be like, I'm so nice, I'm just punching myself in the face. No, it's self-abuse. That's what the problem is. The problem isn't pleasing people. The problem is pleasing people while abusing yourself, right? I mean, if you can meet your own needs and other people, great. That's a good life. That's, as a business person, how you get customers. It's how you stay married. It's how your employees don't leave you. It's spaces of friendship. Reciprocity is great, right? But not at the expense of yourself. The other thing I think to understand in terms of reframing is how manipulative it is. So people pleasing is a way to get what you want. Yeah, it's not driven by, I'm a good person, I want to help this person, from the heart giving. It feels different, right? It's got a different embodiment, it's got a different flavor, energy, call it what you will. Yeah, so really getting that it's deeply manipulative and seeing yourself do that. Another reframe I'd say is it's impossible. It's impossible to guess what people want, and it's certainly impossible to please everyone. So it's like, well, who are you going to please? It's the person that happens to be in front of you because you're slightly uncomfortable. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is you don't like the discomfort of sticking up for yourself. It's not that big a deal. Like, and just seeing it as like, hey, you'd call that cowardice, or just, I don't like the social discomfort, framing it that way. It's like, okay, well, it's not the end of the world to have some social discomfort, right? Even if part of you is saying, I'm going to die, this is the end of the world. You don't understand, Mark. It's just social discomfort. Yeah. Who are you pleasing, as I said? You can't please everyone. Another profound inquiry is, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. No, we're not going to go there. So you're trying to get love from people pleasing. Well, is that love? if somebody only likes you because you help them, if someone loves you because you listen to them, but you're not really doing that authentically, is there any real possibility for actual love or connection in that? I'd say it's actually a barrier to love. It's a barrier to real love, which is like, shit, this is the opposite of what I want. Yeah. Actually, it's really selfish. You know, when you people please, you stop them being able to have a real relationship. You make them infantilize them in a way. You can't, saying they can't make their own decisions. It's not nice to yourself, but it's not nice to them. It's actually, borderline abusive thing to be doing, actually. And again, fear-driven, coming from fear and love, that's kind of key. Whew. Should we end the video there? If we're a therapist, we would, wouldn't we? We just don't end the whole thing there. Podcast, the video, just end it there. By the way, this is on YouTube and on the podcast. No, we're not going to end it there. That's the first half. What are we going to do about it? That is the key thing. Loads of ideas here. Loads of ideas. Coaching this over the years, I found different things work for different people. However, it is basically just one thing. That is awareness and choice. Okay, that's what all my work comes down to. That's what I found is what works. If I were to say in one word what it is, I'd say it's practice. It's practice. I like to look at this as a skill or a set of skills that are missing. I like skills models. They're very concrete. You can learn them. We don't have to talk about our parents fucking endlessly. That won't help. We don't, skills model. There's some deeper stuff to it, but essentially it's 3 skills. So one is tuning into what you need. People are dissociated, maybe people pleasers, just because they're not aware of what they need. And you can practice that, right? Little things, go to a restaurant. What do I actually want to eat? Someone asks you, what do you want to do tonight? Maybe my wife this evening, what do I want to do tonight? I'm going to ask if she wants to go to the cinema. She might say, I don't want to go to the cinema. Would you like to go for a curry? And I'm tuning in. Do I feel like that? That's a skill. It takes practice. Saying no and asking for help are the other 2 skills. So if you think of what people pleasing is, half of it is not asking for what you want. You're second guessing that. The other half of it is not saying no to what other people want. Okay, so it's meeting other people's needs, not meeting your own needs. Yeah, 2 sides to that. They're 2 embodiments in a way, they're 2 skills, but that all comes from knowing what you want. Because if you don't have that primary skill of knowing, okay, tuning in, then do I want to say no? Do I want to ask for something? The rest follows from there. And again, I want to acknowledge the positive skill of being able to empathize with other people and being able to contribute to them, being able to give, being able to offer, but from a place of fullness, from a place of authenticity. It's so different offering from that place, and people feel it. People feel the difference. Cool. Okay. We just sort of talked about the trauma side of things here. That for some people, skills-based work doesn't work because they need profound trauma healing. Often there's a bit of that. Often a combination is very effective. Some people call this the fawn response. So again, it's a safety strategy. If you've learned that someone's going to hurt you really badly unless you make them smile, then yes, that can be there. And there's all sorts of political stuff you can bring into here. And I think people aren't wrong to do that. It's going to take it a bit far, but they're not wrong to do that. Cool. Let's go back to, so trauma healing, worth a look. It's a bit beyond the scope of this video, but there's a whole load of trauma healing modalities out there. People might know EMDR or somatic experiencing. People like Gabor Mate's work. There's loads of good stuff out there. Okay, let's go back to awareness. So awareness, behaviorally and somatically. So what do you do in your body when you're people pleasing? There are specifics. For some people, it's a sort of collapse. Other people, it's a sort of anxiety, like their breath comes up and their energy comes up, like up here. Other people, it's a sort of going out of center. Yeah, like, do you want this? Do you want this? There's usually an anxiety of some kind, right? Like fear again is at the heart of this. So becoming aware of what you do in your body, your breath, your posture, the weight, everything as you do this. And you may have to set up some almost like simulations with a coach or a friend. Become aware of those. This is the heart of embodied work, which is kind of what I'm most known for. Other than being an arsehole, hence my qualification here. What else? Yes, awareness of the specific behaviors. So specific embodiment, but also the specific behaviors. So people please, how do you know that? Let's make a list. Make a list, right now, 10 things you do. And they could be the little things like, in the coffee shop, I don't ask for what I want, in the restaurant, I find people like trying to please the waiter, and it's like, his job is to please you, other than being polite, you have no responsibility here. So look at specific ways. It could be like sexually, it could be like in terms of like, don't ask for a pay rise. It could be tiny little things. Make us a list of many of them as you can. I don't say to my boss when I think he's wrong. I don't say this, I don't say that. And you could even sort of scale them of like, which ones might I be a challenge? Because if there are like deep-rooted patterns to do with your mother or your partner, your husband, stuff that's really hardcore, deep-rooted, big consequences, important relationships, history, they're the big ones, consequences, relationship and history. Like, that's maybe not the place to start. Like, start with the small things. Because if you can open up a window, you can start learning that skill. Find a bright spot, move elsewhere. Bright spots is another useful one, is there places you don't people please? I know people who have had to learn with their kids, for example, they need good boundaries because kids are just bloody abusive otherwise, kids will just keep taking. Or it could be that at work you manage to do it, but it's romantic relationships where you don't. You probably have some place where you're not crap, where you're not a total people pleaser. If that's the case, look for that place and open it up. So you open it up into being, going, how do I move that behavior elsewhere? Cool? All right, more to come. Whew, this is like a magnum opus of people pleasing. Great. So it all comes down to practice. Sometimes I give joking practices to people, like some of them are more serious than others. Like one of my students had to finish every sentence with the word motherfucker. It's like, yes, I do want sugar, motherfucker. Pass the salt, motherfucker. Now, I'm not saying you should do that, but can be some fun things there. Linguistic practices, like not always saying please, or not saying please more than once, or just saying thank you once. Oh, thank you so much. People tend to sort of be over the top around some of the manners stuff. Obviously, it doesn't mean be nasty to anyone. It doesn't mean be abusive. This is a key thing, actually. A lot of people who are people pleasers haven't got a distinction between being a people pleaser and being helpful, being a people pleaser and being polite, being a people pleaser and being, in partnership with someone. So I think that's really key, is actually getting those distinctions and going, in the body, in the behaviors, in the words, all these things. Cool. What else to practice? 3-point process. This is a key one I work with. How does it work? 3 points. So when you think this is coming up, it's got the basic awareness practice, noting down how you do it. You might journal it, you might have a reminder, an alarm clock, you might have a friend who reminds you. But then there's a 3-point process of how we stop it. Okay. So if you can, and sometimes you've got time on an email, other times you've got to do this in a second. If you get that time, you come back to yourself and say, what am I really saying yes to in myself? Because here's the thing, if you're saying no to someone else, you're saying yes to someone in yourself. Or it's like, do I want to give? Is this fully from the heart? So it's like the coming back to oneself. The second thing is the acknowledging of the other person. Their needs matter, even if it's not me that's going to meet them. So, walk past this homeless guy in the street, he's begging, maybe I don't give him change, but I just look him in the eye and go, you know what, I get it, you need money, you need to live like the rest of us. So there's an acknowledgement of humanity. Also there's the acknowledgement of the relationship. So what a lot of people pleasers don't realize is you can say no to the request, but yes to the relationship, right? So my niece, when she was younger, would be like, Uncle Mark, read me another story. And I'd be like, I love you and no. I love you and no. It's like, I'm still your uncle, I love you to bits, but your mum said you can't go to bed. Yeah. So it's putting that, that acknowledging the relationship verbally or just internally. So there's the second part is, coming back to oneself, acknowledging one's own needs, acknowledging the relationship. And then the third part is actually just doing it, is saying the thing like, no, thank you, or I would like this, in the case of, if you're people pleasing by not asking for what you want. To do that, you probably have to self-regulate, because this is essentially a stress management course, right? Like, you're going to find this stressful until it's not. And, you could be relaxed to barely breathe. You can look up ABC centering on my videos and podcasts. The third thing, as I said, is the stress management technique and the doing it. You can add a fourth thing here. It's the 3-point process. Add a fourth thing is like noticing you didn't die. Okay, because the more you kind of go, wow, not only did I not die, but this relationship isn't broken. You know, it's like I remember once like asking for something I wanted from a teacher of mine who was a very developed person, and they said no, but they said no in such a beautiful way that it actually enhanced the relationship. And I remember thinking, wow, normally when people say no, that, you know, my fear is it breaks the relationship. And it was so cool. It was so cool to see that. Okay, so it's 3-point process. That's kind of key practice here, along with some of the verbal practices and somatic practices I've mentioned. Just on the embodiment front, you, as well as like noticing what you're doing, the self-regulation techniques, something like martial arts will probably be brilliant for you as a people pleaser. A couple of my students have taken up kickboxing, and they said that's just like, you can't be a people pleaser where you're trying to kick someone in the head, right? So it's, yeah, for me, the martial arts, they bring that strength, that discipline. Weightlifting can be good too, but particularly like competitive arts, like do something competitive. I mean, you can't be a people pleaser and play a competitive sport, you know, with football, hockey, whatever. So, you know, often my sort of more alternative students say, I don't like doing anything competitive, and they do, and they fucking love it. So doing something competitive, martial arts particularly, I've found helpful. Of course, you can do some self-love practices, you know, really getting that this comes from self-love, like metta meditation is a classic. It's a really good one there. Lots of, you know, look at my other stuff on self-care. There's lots of possibilities. Where was I? So self-care. Yeah, you can also sort of extend as an exercise. You can extend the play it forwards part. So it's like first of all, so it's deepening why it matters for you to take care of yourself. It's really this whole thing's about self-care, right? So why does this matter? You know, really getting to the grips with that, profoundly coming to grips with that. And the ultimate transformation actually for people pleasing, and this is what I did in my life actually, was the sort of deep spiritual life purpose transformation, where you really get what you're here for on the planet. And then the idea of other people wasting your time is just fucking hilarious. You're just not going to have it. You know, when you really confront death, I've had death meditation brought to me in various ways, including in Ukraine last year. The idea of letting people waste your time or not looking after yourself is just bizarre, actually, you know, as long as you do the trauma work with it. So the sort of profound spiritual realization on people pleasing is, one, really getting that you're, you know, worthy of love, like the profound spiritual realization that you know, you are the divine. I don't know, we talk about this stuff, but it's honestly, all the tricks and tips are great, but this will really work. This is what really works, like really getting what works for you, yeah? The other one is really studying relationship in depth, like really realizing that good connection and valuing that is based on authenticity, and that means saying no, blah, 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 blah. The other one is like the exercise, play it forward. Like, what's your life going to be like at the end of your life if you don't develop the skill to ask for what you want and say no? If you do have this continuous people pleasing, like, you're not going to live a full, authentic life or achieve your potential. That's a bit of tough love. You're just fucking not. I think playing that forward, even though it's painful, and going, this is the outcome here. You know, this is the outcome, and getting rid of this fantasy that everyone's going to love you and it's all going to be fine. Yeah, as I say, there's lots of exercises I give students. They go from kind of silly things, you know, linguistic things, like sort of not always saying please, or overly, not the certain patterns of like tilting the head, or, you know, sort of appeasement strategies, or particularly female students. I'll sort of spot their body language and say, you're not allowed to do this from now on. You know, you can have fun with this. You can have fun with this as well. And again, it's always about calibration, doing it in a way which feels workable, getting that 5 or 10% improvement. It's about measurability as well. So finding things that you can actually track, as opposed to kind of vague things. Really things you go, right, I actually practice this today. Things you can repeat, I'm very big on, like, right, I buy coffee every day, so every day I'm going to practice here. Again, without being mean to anyone. Cool. I can't actually read my writing here now. Oh yeah, there's one. Get a role model. So I know a lot of people, mentees, have used me for this. One of my mentees was like, I used to be scared of you, then I hated you, then I realised I needed to be a bit more like you. And you're still an asshole sometimes, Mark, but I've learned a lot from you, thank you. I was like, you're welcome, I have no idea that was going on. So you need a role model who's got a bit of this. And the key thing is you look at them and you, instead of going, I could never be like them, they're amazing. That's what we tend to do if it's like boyfriends, girlfriends, you know, idols, you know. Instead, look at them and go, how can I steal that? Yeah, look at them and go, what do they do that I can impersonate? What do they do that I can do? I think that's the key thing. Yeah. Also, look at the friends you're around, colleagues you're around. Be around people that have this, and you'll learn it. You know, this is so undersaid, but I feel like the best way to learn a skill is just to spend time, you know, with 5 people throughout different parts of your life who have that skill. You'll model it. You'll pick it up. Yeah. Also, like training the people you're around to help you with this. Like, hey, John, if you see me people pleasing and that looks like X, Y, Z, please let me know. Yeah. Or, hey, saying to your partner, if it looks like I'm just going along with things, can you just look me in the eye and say, are you sure, dear? Sometimes people, like, I have to support people pleasers. They just need that little extra, like taking the pressure off. My friend Ted Hargreave did a video on this about marketing and taking the pressure off. It's really good. He was talking about just little phrases you can have, like literally no pressure. Yeah, like to help a people pleaser, you can be like, look, no pressure. One of the ones I use is, hey, I can get another volunteer if you don't want to do this. You know, as a coach, I'm a bit worried when I use people pleasers in workshops for demos that they're just sort of going along, they don't really want to do it. And I can kind of spot it now. So I'll give them what I call an honorable out. Like, hey, if she doesn't want to do it, is there anyone else who can step in? And then 3 people put their hands up, and then all of a sudden the initial volunteer is like, actually, I don't want to do it. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. So giving people that and, you know, training people around you to give you that is very helpful, because doing this fast is difficult, and eventually you'll be able to do it under pressure. I mean, I have a limit, right? Like there's an amount of pressure of people pushing me, bullying me, where I start to crumble as well, right? And there's an amount of social pressure that's very difficult. I mean, years ago, there was a course I was on, and it was really badly done. And it was just deeply unpleasant, this course. And I went, this is wrong, I need to say something. But they'd actually used, I'll name them, it's called the Mankind Project. So it's a men's group project. It's all well intended, but they use kind of an indoctrination process that comes from the military, where they get you to do things in what's called a compliance ladder. And having gone through all that and these kind of military methods, even me as a super know what I want, firm boundary, Irish rebel guy, I found it incredibly difficult to speak up, incredibly difficult. And I thought to myself, God, if I'm struggling here, a lot of people are. You know, we are really, our society rewards conformity and keeping your mouth shut 9 times out of 10. So, you know, as I say, in many ways, everyone can benefit from this video, including me. Benefit from my own video, there we go. Good, so friends and colleagues. Yes, I think I've hit the main ones. I can't actually read anymore. I'm probably gonna look at these later today and go, oh yeah, genius. So finding little ways in your life you can practice, making it calibrated, understanding you might sort of slip back, having the people around you that's important, making sure you've got that clear motivation. And the good news is I've seen people who make massive progress with this. I think there is something characterological. I was always probably a bit more disagreeable than my sister. And I think the sort of spiritual work and the martial arts I did kind of really reinforced that. You know, meant that I could really follow my own thing, that passion myself. However, like I was probably already like a 6 or 7 out of 10 on this. My sister might have been a 5, you know, I know other people start off as a 3. But, you know, even though I've seen students go from a 3 to a 7, for example. Sometimes they overshoot it and they become a bit obnoxious for a while, which is kind of their biggest fear. Definitely seen that in a couple of cases. But usually there's a pretty quick swing back. Yeah, you know, a lot of people, it's like they go from a 3 to a 6. And they think they're going to overshoot, they don't get anywhere fucking near it. A few do overshoot, but most don't. And that's great. You know, they go from it being a real problem in their life to it being not really that much of an issue. So there is hope. You too can be an asshole like me. So there we go. The Guide to People Pleasing. We've got a course coming up on this, embodimentunlimited.com, Embodiment Unlimited on the app. You'll also find all sorts of good things. Hope this has been useful to you. If you want to please me, then hit the like button or give us a review. If you listen to the podcast, share it with your friends. Do all of that. Because please, if you love me, you would see how easy people pleasers are to manipulate. No, there you go. Do it if you want. If you don't, don't. Thank you. Mark Walsh here. If you like that, you'll probably like embodimentunlimited.com and our app.
So on both of these things, you can get a bunch of podcasts that aren't available here, some exclusive ones with some big names, some people you'll probably recognize that are over there. There's a copy of my book, PDF, my first book on embodiment, which seems that people like. I sold quite a few copies on Amazon, but there's a free copy there. What else is there? Loads of videos of me coaching embodiment, resources on trauma, on meditation, on yoga. And you can also chat to people without going on Facebook or any of that nonsense. So if you want to chat embodiment with people, that's there. And it's on the embodimentunlimited.com, all free, and the app available at the App Store and all that good stuff. So if you like this, do check those out.